So tonight we're going to talk about maintenance planning, and our intention is that we're going to provide some basic understanding on some maintenance planning, the concept overall, and then this is really going to flow into our next seminar, which is all about depreciation reports. So maintenance planning and how they work with depreciation reports, because really together they're hand in hand. We're not going to talk about each strata individually. Each stratas are very different. They all have different maintenance plans and needs. We manage a stratified parking lot, so it's nothing but parking stalls, and then has very different maintenance requirements than maybe a large strata with many amenities that requires different maintenance planning. So just overall, we're going to give a broad range and really introduce the concept of maintenance planning and what that looks like. So on our agenda today, we've got introduction. Part 1 is what is maintenance planning. Part 2 is what goes into it. We're going to talk about required maintenance and as well as regular maintenance. And then part 3 is really other opportunities. Sound like fun?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Jerry, and he's going to talk about what is a maintenance plan.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty hard topic, and when you start looking at maintenance, a lot of times you look at your annual operating budget at the AGM, and there's a single line there that says repairs and maintenance. It's got a lot of money in it, and really the owners start looking at it and going, well, what's included into that plan? So the whole thought behind maintenance planning became a multi-aspect item, using it to budget, using it to plan, but more importantly, using it to communicate. So, show of hands, how many people drive a vehicle? Quite a number of them. You get that book when you first buy a car, and at the back of it, it's got a schedule. You see commercials and they tell you, Mr. Lube, change your oil every 5,000 kilometers. The important message that they're trying to say is that you don't have to replace your car once something breaks. You can replace a part, you can do preventative maintenance so that you can extend its lifespan. As Max said, I'm heavily involved in coaching, and I've got a car with about 350,000 kilometers on it, and we're going to try to go to Edmonton this weekend for the Canadians. So I got to have a vehicle that I know is going to run, otherwise my son's going to be looking at me and calling me CAA. But you've all got maintenance involved in your vehicles. How do you know what to do? Do you wait for it to stop running and then fix it? And some people do that. It's reactionary maintenance. But the concept is planning. And you can plan ahead. When am I going to have my oil change? When am I going to change the tires out? When am I going to change the spark plugs or the injectors? And just go through that regular maintenance. In addition, you're probably going to wash your car. You're going to polish it. So you're going to prolong the useful life. As Sean mentioned, depreciation reports are a separation from planned maintenance. And the reason for that is a depreciation report looks at the capital replacement. So when the car dies, you replace it. Preventative maintenance takes you all the way up to that point. How can you extend the useful life? So let's keep that in mind. And a maintenance plan based on your car is a tool. That's what we want to see happen in stratas. It's having a tool, having a reporting tool, having a conversation piece that strata councils can be equipped with to look not only today, but tomorrow and next year on how you can plan for maintenance items. I live in a strata. That's my backyard. That was yesterday. And it was interesting in that I had a concrete deck there until last week, and then they decided to come in there and take the entire deck out. Why? They had a crack in it. They didn't have to change out the entire deck, but the strata council decided to do that. Problem is just to the, I guess to the top of the slide, we've got drainage issues. And I read my minutes today, and they said that they're not going to do anything about the drainage. So we've got a situation where we're correcting a problem, but we're not fixing the source of the problem. So by planning properly and having a plan, they could have done the drainage first and then replaced the deck. But they didn't want any input, and I don't know who gave them the advice. I talked to the contractor last night when I got home, and they said, nope, we're not addressing the problem. All we're going to do is give you a new slab. So we sometimes have to watch how we do maintenance And a plan can address the timing of certain issues. It's a retaining wall at the back. It's made out of wood. 5 years ago, we put a plan together to start replacing some of the wood that was deteriorating. Oh, it's treated wood. Never have to do anything to it. 5 years later, that wall's falling down. 2 years ago, at the annual general meeting, at the end of the notice, there was a letter, a quotation from a contractor saying it was going to cost us $150,000 to replace all of the retaining walls. So we went from 0 to 100 without doing any repairs and maintenance. There was no planning. The plan was there. The Strata Council just elected not to do that. And we're not saying that you always have to do every repair, but what you have to do is plan. And that's the most important thing. Maybe a little bit of foresight, maybe a little bit of repair and maintenance, changing out some wood would extend the life of the retaining wall. Maybe power washing it, putting some additional treatment on it so that the ants don't go through and rot it and chew it all. But they didn't want to do anything. Now they're just going to let that wall deteriorate to the point that now we have to invest $150,000. And to me, that's my money. I'm an investor in that complex. And I sort of look at it as a property manager and say, again, poor foresight. They had a plan, they just didn't want to implement it. Types of maintenance plans. There's lots of them. And as Sean said, it's based on a number of different aspects. Type of building, tower versus townhouse. You can have old buildings versus new buildings. You can have different aspects of the building that has to be incorporated. But what we're trying to educate you on is the concept of maintenance planning, forward planning, preventative planning. So in a simple form, and I know you can't read the numbers that are up there, that's simply a budget that was prepared on one of our sites. So the Strata Council developed a month-by-month costing. They have a line item in their budget that says repairs and maintenance, $100,000. This is the buildup. So this is actually a map that helps the Strata Council and the Strata Manager go through every month of the year and what designated amounts are going to be spent. That tells them, we've got $500, we can do some power washing this month. And if you're looking at that 3, 6, 9 months in advance, you're getting a plan. So this is a rather simple form. It's worked for that counts for years. They love it. It's easy for them. It helps in their budgeting. It helps when they have a variance that they're able to track why the variance occurred. And it helps in forward budgeting. So again, it's just a simple plan, but it is a form of plan. A little bit more comprehensive. So this is a document that we use on many of our buildings that we take over either in transition or new to the developer. And what you're basically doing is outlining every element of maintenance or repair that has to be done, and you're putting it on a calendar. So in the middle, you've got a grid. You're telling what month the event will happen. You're saying who the contractor typically is or who is the last person to do the repair and maintenance, what the average annual cost would be, and what GL code it's associated with. So again, if there's any treasurers here, this is helpful in planning. This helps you to identify what costs may to go to what GL code, but more importantly, it's giving you that calendar of events so that you can look forward, that you can plan ahead. Doesn't make sense to get quotes today for, I would say, roof repairs, because they're probably not going to be able to do that until at least September or October. You can plan for next year, but this year, if you had planned early in the year, January, February, for roof replacement, then you're ahead of the game. You can go to the contractor and probably book in earlier, May, June, July. I wouldn't do July because it's raining this month, but May and June. So again, another concept of different style. And I have to reiterate, we don't have a standard format of maintenance plans. It's the input from the councils that basically tell us what and how far you want us to go. And we work with you on that. Another simplistic approach, having each of the elements down, what's the frequency, and then start filling in the annual costs. History always tells us what we spent before, what month we did it, and what year we did it. It can be used as a plan going forward. And finally, there's contractors. This is one example. Maintenance operation plans, or MOP. They will come and they will do maintenance plans for your building. They'll walk the site, they will analyze every element of your building, and they will put together a preventative maintenance plan. It's not uncommon in many of the buildings in Olympic Village, they had a 5-year MOP plan, so every year MOP comes in and looks at the building and tells them, have you been doing the right maintenance? It's for the first 5 years, but it's pretty good. It gives you some guidance in terms of how you can do your maintenance. It gives a very good feedback to the council, have you been doing your maintenance? And it comes from a neutral source. But these can be expensive. Any of these can be modified. Strata council members are smart. You're all here. You can take photographs. You can take a photo diary. I like doing that. Every year start looking at an element. Is it changing? Does it look the same? Photos are a great way of telling you that story. But you can prepare your own plans just by walking your sites. So the maintenance plan, the maintenance manual, pretty extensive, long, drawn out, hard to review sometimes. But more importantly, it's the concept. Quickly skipped over the slides. So the 4 elements that we're looking at: age, type of building, where it's located. Something close to water may have a higher maintenance requirement than, say, something out in the valley. You've got drier weather in the valley versus salt water up against the water. So there's different aspects that happen in the plan. So again, just wanted to leave you on that thought with maintenance planning. There's nothing cast in stone of what it looks like, but it's the concept of just being able to predict what's going to happen going forward. John?
Great, thanks, Jerry. So we've established the concept of what a maintenance plan is. Like Jerry said, there's nothing static, but there's different versions and there's different types that each strata can kind of decide what they want to do upon. But there's 2 components to it. There's regular maintenance, and that would be your maintenance that happens annually. So that's the cleaning items, and we're going to go through some great items here in a second. But then there's also the capital replacement items. Those aren't part of the maintenance. Those are like your envelope of the building, the roof of the building. Those are longer life that you have to save up for, and you don't want a massive special levy to take care of. So today we're going to be talking about those regular annual maintenance, how to organize those and the concepts behind that. And then at the next seminar, the idea would be, okay, you've got this depreciation report, and that's the longer view, and how does that apply? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So a good example, for some of you just to really grasp onto it, a boiler, a hot water boiler, a typical natural gas hot water boiler, heats the hot water. You would replace that every 25 years. That would be your long-term capital expenditure. Your short term would be every year you get an HVAC or a mechanical contractor in to clean it out and clean all the debris out of it so it doesn't overheat and it runs properly. That would be your maintenance item. So just to differentiate. So maintenance versus capital replacement. So today we're going to talk about some replacement.